University of Miami's quarterback Cam Ward did not have his best game of the season so far in Friday night's win against Virginia Tech, but he may have provided his signature Heisman moment in that game. This is QB Unfiltered, my take, the U's quarterback Cam Ward.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement.
The Canes beat Virginia Tech Friday night 38-34. The game came down to the last play. Hail Mary pass by the Hokies that was caught on his way down in the back of the end zone. The ball was juggled a little bit. It was determined by the replay officials that a Hurricane DB that was laying out of bounds out of the back of the end zone touched the ball, which evidently killed the play right there. And what was called a touchdown initially on the field by the refs was overturned by the replay crew, giving Miami its 5th win of the season. They are 5-0. In this game, quarterback Cam Ward was 24 for 38 for 343 yards and 4 touchdowns. He did throw 2 picks, which we'll talk about as we go in this show. Overall, I think it was if you can call it this, a subpar game for Cam Ward, because he's a dude that has really been lighting it up this season. But as the saying goes, and he proved this to be true, the saying in college football is big-time players make big-time plays in big-time games. As far as Cam Ward goes, that saying should be big-time players make big-time plays when their team needs it. And we will talk about the Heisman moment that he provided on the game-winning drive in the 4th quarter, a phenomenal play and an example of what sets him apart from the other quarterbacks in college football. Now, when I coached, I led off every game throwing the ball on the first play. You know, I knew I was going to do it. My team obviously knew I was going to do it, and my opponents knew I was going to do it. So it was really a psychology thing and a statement thing. On the first play of the season every year, the first play of the game of the season, I always went vertical and did it just, as I said, to make a statement. Now, for the rest of the season every year, the first play of the game, I always wanted to have an easy throw and completion for my quarterback to mentally, get him going into the flow of the game. So, as I said, Cam Ward, subpar performance. He just looked a little off, and it started on play 1. So, on the first play of the game, the Canes ran what I used to call 4-stick. I'm not sure how they label their receivers, but the outside receiver to the right was running the stick route. The slot receiver to the right was running a corner route, and they had the running back lined up to that side, and he's running a shoot route, which is a flat route, basically an arrow to the sideline. Cam Ward read the play perfectly. They sank the coverage down to cover the stick. There's no one on the running back. This is an easy pitch and catch, and Cam misfired on the throw. So the first play of the game, I'm going, oh, geez. And, I could be wrong on that assessment, but that's a throw that he completes in his sleep with his eyes closed on a normal basis. Okay, and then he missed some reads, and on the 2 interceptions that he threw in this game, he made poor decisions on the throws. The second one he threw really had a lot to do with Virginia Tech's coverage. They did a great job, and I'll talk about that play in a second, but let's talk about the first pick that he threw. They ran a wheel route by their inside receiver down in the red zone. And based on how that defender, the angle that he had on that receiver as he was turning it up on the vertical part of that wheel route, Cam should have put air underneath it and just tried to drop it in the bucket in the end zone, but he threw it on a rope. And as I said, the angle was such that defender just undercut the throw, and it was an easy pick. Not a great decision by Ward, and something that you very rarely see him do. Now, I'm going to say this on this play. I always used to tell my quarterbacks, if you throw a pick, you better make the tackle. And Cam Ward chased the guy down and made the tackle, pushed him out of bounds at the end of the play. So well done on that. But, the decision to make that type of throw that he made was surprising, and that was a mistake by Ward. The second pick was a situation where Virginia Tech deked the Canes and deked Ward into throwing the route that he threw. They lined up in a cover one look, man free. The corners were up in a press. They had one safety back in the middle of the field. And Miami was running a scheme where their right slot receiver was running a corner route, which is a great route against man coverage. The problem was on the snap of the ball, the Hokie corners who were up in press ran bail 3 technique. So they turned and bailed back, and they ended up playing cover 3, and you don't throw corner routes into cover 3, and that's exactly what they deked Miami into doing. And then Cam didn't throw the world's greatest ball either, and it turned into being a interception for Virginia Tech. So uncharacteristic mistakes made by Ward. He also had the fumble early in the game, which could have easily, I think, been called an incomplete pass, but they called it, he lost possession of the ball and put it on the floor, and that was it. So 3 turnovers by Cam Ward, and really those are the types of mistakes that if you make from the quarterback position usually make it real tough for you to win the game. And then there were just some other plays during the game where it just was un-Ward-like behavior by him. They ran a screen one time that was read by Virginia Tech, and Cam had no business throwing the ball. It was a cloudy situation. It wasn't going to be a good play. What this should have been and what he should have done and what I would expect him to do is, if they take the screen away and it's cloudy, okay, it's a cloudy picture, just throw the ball down at the screen receiver's feet for an incomplete pass, and we line up and run another play. But those are some examples there of what I felt was Cam just being a little bit off in this game. And then in the second half, he's going to, I'm sure, kicking himself in the tail when it happened during the game. But when he watches this again in film, he's really going to be disappointed and upset with himself. They had a jailbreak screen called against cover 0 all-out blitz. And a jailbreak screen is when you bring your receiver from the outside in towards the tackle. He catches the ball on the run, sticks his toe on the ground, gets behind his offensive line, and he's running downfield. Well, Virginia Tech brought the house. And if Cam completes this ball, the guy walks into the end zone, and that was a misfire and another missed opportunity for the Canes offense. Now, all of those little miscues mentally and physically that number one had in this game, one of the great skills that Cam Ward has is his ability to keep his cool and his poise when either he makes mistakes or their offense goes through some form of adversity. And he's always got a level head out there. He always keeps his cool. And I'm telling you this, at every level, on every team, the starting quarterback's teammates are always looking to him to see how he responds when adversity hits. And when you've got a quarterback that shakes it off, forgets about it, moves on to the next play, doesn't stomp around, doesn't lose his mind, doesn't go off the rails mentally, demonstrative, and just keeps his poise. his teammates eat that stuff up, and it basically points those guys in the right direction of, hey, yeah, something bad happened to us, but it doesn't matter. We're going to go out and play the next play. You always tell your quarterbacks that they've got to have a really bad memory on the field, because good or bad, they can't change what just happened on that snap. But if they go in the tank, it has an effect on what happens on the next snap and the snap after that. So what's happened, put it to bed, forget about it, and move on. And Cam Ward does a great job of doing this. And again, from, I'm sitting here saying that he had a subpar game and he made some bad throws and some bad decisions. He still displayed in this game all the skills that set him apart from other quarterbacks in college football. On a majority of his throws, he was throwing dimes. His delivery, his release, lightning fast, that was on display in this game. The calm and the poise in the face of pressure. I'm going to talk about his offensive line here in a little bit, but this wasn't a picnic for him when he dropped back to pass in this game. And there were a lot of situations where he had to work the pocket and extend plays and make a play downfield, throwing the ball, checking it down to his running back, or pulling the ball down and running, and then making big plays. Obviously, we're going to talk about the signature Heisman moment that he had there on that last drive. But continually in the first 5 games of the season this year, he goes out there and does things that the viewer at home goes, wow. And he did it again Friday night against Virginia Tech. Okay, let's talk about the Heisman moment. Last drive, he's wrapped up for a sack, and I've talked before about Cam Ward. The game is slowed down for him mentally. It's like, he's able to slow it down and think about how to improvise or to do something that you normally don't see from a quarterback that extends plays. And what he did in this signature moment is definitely that. He's wrapped up in the pocket for a sack, and he has the wherewithal to take the ball in 2 hands, see one of his teammates standing there, and execute a 2-hand chest pass to the guy, who runs it down inside the 5-yard line and leads to the game-winning touchdown. Now, there's not a lot of quarterbacks in college football that can do that. And when he's sitting in New York City at the Heisman Trophy ceremony in December, it's going to be because of this play. And that was his Heisman signature moment, and it was really fun to watch. Okay, speaking of the Heisman ceremony, he's going to be joined in December in New York City by Alabama's Jalen Milroe. And you can go through the course of a season, and obviously it's the body of work. But as I said with Cam Ward, you got these Heisman signature plays that propel you to the ceremony. Jalen Milroe had a Heisman game against Georgia the other night. So I'm sure I'm going to be doing more shows on that young man as we go throughout this season. I've already done one on him a couple weeks ago. But him and Cam are going to be 2 of the guys that are going to be finalists for the Heisman Trophy this year. Okay, Cam's feet continue to get better. That first game against Florida, I thought his feet were really, really lazy and sloppy. He continues to get better. And then I'm pretty sure that somebody's had a conversation with him about, what's made me nervous earlier games, where he would gear it down and kind of slow step it out of bounds when he ran the ball. And I talked about there's defensive guys just waiting that don't give a damn about a 15-yard penalty or a targeting penalty or anything. They're going to take a shot on him and try to knock his ass out of the game. Well, against Virginia Tech, when he pulled the ball down and ran it, he made a concentrated effort to continue going pretty much full speed and getting his butt out of bounds and avoiding hits. So now after this game, it's time for Cam Ward just to reset a little bit. You know, like I said, he was just a tick off in this game. Knowing him and what I've heard about him and read about him, you know, he's going to use that to be refocused for game 6. You know, they're coming out to Berkeley, which is always an interesting place to play at, you know, and so that's going to be an interesting road trip. You know, we used to call them business trips when you go on the road to play somebody else. And I just think that Mario Cristobal is going to be talking all week long about cleaning up some stuff and refocusing and playing a cleaner game against the Cal Bears. Okay, thoughts on the game. First of all, if any of you guys out there are basing your opinion on college quarterbacks based on what Mel Kiper says, holy cow. It cracked me up, you know, early in the game. I don't know who was doing the play-by-play, but Andre Ware, the Heisman Trophy winning quarterback for the Houston Cougars, was doing the analyst work. And early in the game, the play-by-play guy says something like, you know, Mel Kiper has Cam Ward rated as the number 4 quarterback in college football. And Ware started laughing, right? And the guy goes, what? And Ware goes, yeah, I don't think that, Mel Kiper is exactly an astute quarterback evaluator. Now, he didn't say exactly that. That's what I say. And so it's always cracked me up that Kiper gets up there on ESPN and starts pontificating about what he thinks about quarterback play and who the best quarterbacks are. So, you know, that you take that for what it's worth. Okay, Cristobal has got to get a handle on the dumbass plays that some of his guys are making in these games and the penalties. All right. With the penalties now, the first pick that Ward threw down there in the red zone, they had just scored. He just threw a touchdown pass and it was called back for holding. And then he throws the pick, right? The first touchdown pass that he threw, the guy that caught the ball got a 15-yard personal foul for taunting, which means that Miami now has to kick the ball off 15 yards further back. In close games, those things have a tendency to jump up and bite you in the ass. It's not needed. You don't need to do it. All right? Score your touchdown, hand the ball to the ref, get your rear end to the sideline, and then you can celebrate with your teammates and do what you need to do. All right? The other thing that really kind of got me going a little bit was the second touchdown pass. Great play call. You know, it was short yardage. Cam ran a play fake and they get a tight end running behind everybody in the secondary. Ward makes a great throw, soft, puts air underneath it so it doesn't have to be perfect, right? But it's what this guy did after he caught the ball. So he catches the ball, and at about the 10-yard line, he's got it in one hand, palming it, and he puts it down by his waist and slows way down, you know, to get style points going in the end zone. Now, I don't know if you guys are old enough to remember this Super Bowl game, Dallas and Buffalo, and Dallas defensive lineman Leon Lett scooped up a fumble and did that exact same crap. And Buffalo's receiver was sprinting downfield behind him and punched the ball out of his hand, and Buffalo recovered in the end zone. It's stuff like that you don't need, Canes. You don't need that stuff. You're too good to run the risk of having stupid stuff like that come back and bite you in a close game. Okay. Now, Virginia Tech did a really nice job of giving Miami's offense a bunch of different looks. Last week against South Florida, I said that you can't just line up in coverages and just line up in them and show a great quarterback and a good offensive coordinator what you're running, because they're going to carve you up. And South Florida did that. Virginia Tech did a lot of lining up in one coverage and buzzing to another coverage on the snap. And they also mixed up their coverages. So you were seeing things like cover 1, 2 zone, 2 man, a little bit of cover 4, which is a zone, and cover 0. And they even ran a snap or 2 of cover 3. And as I said earlier, they tricked or deked Ward into thinking they were playing cover 1, and they bailed out into cover 3, and he threw a pick on that play. So nice job by their defensive coordinator. The other thing that they did when they played man is when South Florida played man, they had their corner and their slot defender on the same plane with each other. And that's how you get easy rubs and picks on those switch routes. Virginia Tech would play the corner up in a press and play the slot defender back further. So it was a lot harder for Miami to run any of those plays. And if you notice in the game, you didn't see nearly, I don't even know if we saw any of those switch verticals or switch slant routes like they were running against South Florida. So I just thought that Virginia Tech did a pretty interesting job of making Miami think, about what they were seeing defensively. It wasn't nearly as easy as it was the week before against South Florida. Okay, now the offensive line. I think this is probably the offensive line meeting room this week at Miami, and particularly the first day. I don't know when they watch film. If they came in on Saturday and watched film, or they did it on Sunday, whatever. Watching the game film in the offensive line meeting room must have not been a very nice experience for those guys, because they didn't play very well. And some of the stuff they did was really shocking to me. Now, I know that Miami's playing some backups out there on the offensive line, but in this game against Virginia Tech, who's got a really good defensive line, very active, right? They made some mental busts in assignments on their pass protection. They had situations where individual offensive linemen got beat. And the two ways that you get beat as an offensive lineman on pass protection is you either stop your feet, or one that's almost 100% fatal, you drop your helmet, which you got no business doing on pass protection. And that happened. Guys dipping their head, dropping their helmet, dropping their eyes, and whiffing on protection. But the one thing that shocked me, and I'm sure their O-line coach is going to have a lot to say about this in film, there were a number of plays where they had 1, 2, or 3 offensive linemen that just stopped playing in the middle of a play. Okay? Just stop playing. And in football, in the passing game, you cannot put a rhythmic second count on how long it takes the quarterback when the ball snapped to get the ball out of his hand on play. So, for example, if you're throwing the quick game where the quarterback's taking, let's say, a 3 quick on his drop, the offensive lineman can't go, well, when we call quick game, that ball's always out of his hand in 1.5 seconds. Or when we take a 3 and hitch and we're throwing the ball further downfield, that ball's out of his hand in 3 seconds or 2.75 seconds. You can't do that. And so what happened a lot in this game, it happened on the Heisman play, on the 2-handed chest pass. We just had offensive linemen that stopped playing during the play. They just stopped. And when they stop, the defensive linemen aren't going to stop playing. Those guys can see exactly what Cam Ward's doing, and they know where he is. So when these linemen stop because they assume that the ball is out, they're standing there, and the better athlete of the two, the defensive lineman now, unobstructed, is running around trying to tackle and sack and harass Cam Ward. So a lot of his issues Friday night were offensive line related. All right. A Miami secondary might be an issue. I think that they don't have lockdown corners. And another issue that was very, very evident in this game, they don't tackle well. I just think that Cam Ward needs more pass attempts. I think they need to throw more screens and get the ball to their skill guys out on the perimeter and let them do their thing out there. And you can still run the ball. You can still come in occasionally and run your tight end with your H-back and do that if you choose to. But wow, that second and third quarter was just, it was like they were like running in molasses on offense. Okay, get the ball to Restrepo, number 7. Get the ball in his hands. Get him more touches. This dude can play, and particularly when you're getting man coverage, this guy tools man coverage. He tools it. There were plays where Virginia Tech was running man and he wasn't getting the ball, where he absolutely screwed the defender into the ground. He has such great balance, and he has the great ability of selling a route, sinking down, pivoting out, and coming out full speed and getting all this separation, plus he's got great hands, and I just don't think you get the ball to him enough. Now, while I say that, I'm always saying throw crossers, throw crossing routes, throw crossers. They ran Restrepo on a crossing route in the first quarter, and for about a 22, 23-yard gain, and then we never saw it again. So get the ball in that guy's hands. Okay, so it was a good way to spend a Friday night. Mr. Ward is still the top dog at the quarterback position in college football. He is really, really talented, and he does so much more for their football team than just throw spirals. His leadership, the way he carries himself on the field, his poise, all of that stuff, his swagger, he does so much more than just spin the ball. He is really, really fun to watch. Okay. Now, I got to say this. I've done a lot of shows on Cam Ward this year. I did one last week in their game against South Florida, so it's back-to-back games. But, hey, I'm guilty. I'm a huge fan of his. I really love watching him play, and I really love talking about how he plays. So you're going to see more of these as we go. So if you like today's show, hit that like button. Please subscribe. I really appreciate it. Thanks for the support. Drop me a comment down below. Let me know what you think of Cam Ward, his performance against Virginia Tech, and what's it going to be like for him and the Canes when they go to the Bay Area to play the Cal Bears this week. Okay, this has been QB Unfiltered, and remember, always throw the ball short to guys who can score. See ya.
I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up.